Let's get everybody in. Hi guys, good to see you. Give us all a wave. Hello everyone. Fantastic stuff. Hey. Make yourself comfortable, get yourself set. I'd love you to take a deep breath and just calm your mind so that we're all set to really focus. Turn off any distractions. I've just switched my phone off. Any pings, dings, alerts that might be useful to put to one side so we can really focus in on you and your goals today. Hello, Hilda May. Hello, Jane, Nadia, Rebecca. Rebecca, great to see you. I wasn't sure. I had got your note today. Thank you so much for joining. It's brilliant to see you all. Fantastic. While we're all getting ourselves set, I'd love you to have pen and paper to hand. Brain is great for having ideas, not so good for holding them. And I invite you just to come off mute for a moment to say hi, just so we can get in the spirit of sharing. Gay, good morning. It's morning time for you right now. Hello, how are you?
Good morning. Good morning. Great to be here.
Thank you very much. Jane, hi. Jane, lovely to see you. Welcome.
Yep.
Angela.
Hi.
Hello, good to see you.
Good
Florence.
to see you too.
Hi, Florence. Hello, Hilda May. Nice to see you. Hi there. And Nadia. Great to see you too.
Hello there.
Hello, Rebecca. Say hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. And Maria. Great to see you.
Hi, guys.
Hi, guys. Welcome, everybody. Well, listen, it's great to have everyone here. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So let's get going. And to start off, I want to give you three things that I'd love you to do. And the first thing I'd like you to do is grab your piece of paper and write today's date on it. So for those of you that are here with me live, that's the 5th of March, 2022. If you're watching the playback, whatever day right now, put today's date down. And I'd love you to give a title to your page, which of course is Hyperfocus. Because I want you to remember the day you decided to create a shift in how you focus on the projects that really matter. Okay. Second thing I'd like you to do is fire up the chat roll at the bottom of your screen. There is a chat button. I'd love you just to click that, put that to one side, say hi. Gay's already there ahead of us. Hi, Gay. Morning from the US. If you care to, say hi. If you care to, let us know where you're dialing in from. I love to geek out on how international we are in our sessions. And what I'd love you to do is not to wait for me today to put things in the chat roll. If I say something that sparks a thought for you, I'd love you to drop it in the chat roll because everybody else is going to see it. It's going to be a thought that they maybe missed. It's going to be a new thing for them. It's going to be something that's going to help them. So don't wait for me to say, hey, put something in the chat roll. I'd love you just to drop things in the chat roll when they come up to you. It'll help embed the learning for you and it'll expose new insights for the rest of us on the call. And then the third thing I'd love you to do is I'd love you to grab the accompanying workbook. Now, let me see if I can do this. So I'm going to send everybody a little workbook that we've got for today's session. You don't have to complete it. You don't have to fill it out, but it's there just to give you a little bit of structure, okay? So that we can really marshal our thinking today as we go around today's topics. So that's there for you. It'll be in the session notes and in the playback, so you'll have that as well. Great to see everyone from all over the place, so all parts of the UK, from Venice, somebody's out there. Jane, you're on holiday. It's so lovely to have you with us. London, Rotterdam, more London. We're in the countryside, the US, it's great. Well, listen, welcome everybody to today's session. Hyperfocus, moving from distraction to traction. And I love that wording. There was a real new thought for me when I was putting this together because I'd only just realized that distraction was traction, but something else. You know, it's like the word breakfast. I've been saying that for 25, 30 years before I worked out that I was breaking my fast. Well, here I am figuring out that I'm distracted. I haven't got traction, I've got distraction, and we want to move beyond that. But you know what? Today is going to be less about managing distractions and productivity in air quotes, and going to be more about really shifting the mind about how we think about our time and our projects. And a question that I'd love you just to put at the top of your notes, I'd love you to give yourself a question. And the question is, what's my hyperfocus philosophy? Okay, here's the question. What's my hyperfocus philosophy? That is, how do I want to apply today's ideas to my particular situation? Okay, and I'm saying this for a couple of reasons. In particular, that everybody here, I know everyone on this call, and I know the vast majority of my community, top performers, people who know how to run their day. I'm coming to today's session knowing that you're not self-describing as busy, because you guys work with me long enough, and we don't talk about self-describing as busy, but I know you have a jam-packed calendar. I know you have lots on. I know there's great demand for you and your time. I'm going to assume that you're taking care of that because I know you've got that stuff handled, or how we're going to do that. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about things that might help with that, but we want to do something a little bit different today. So this is why I want you to have the question, what's my philosophy? Because everybody here has different types of typical work product. Let's imagine I'm an author. A very obvious work product for me is a book. Let's say I'm a director. Let's say I'm Steven Spielberg. I'm sure he does many other things, but he's got some really clear products that he turns out. There's a film at the end of it. Now, some of us don't have quite so much of that. Let's say we're a scientist, and there's one or two on here who are in the science world. That's okay. Maybe it's published papers, but there's so many other things that go on. There's at least, 2, 3 people who are in the legal business, or at least previously. And that's another area that's got, I'm going to spend my day giving lots of counsel, lots of impact, lots of great decision making, and that's adding huge value, but there isn't a work product there. So I want us to be thinking about, how do I want to apply today's philosophy? Because a lot of our work these days has quite loose edges. Okay, what I mean by that is there isn't maybe a solid work product that turns out. It can be I'm adding huge value to my company or my corporation or the work that I'm doing, but there isn't something I turn out. So I want to figure out, when is it going to be appropriate to use hyperfocus? What do I want to point it at? Now, today's theme is going to be traction. And traction is going to be super important and hugely valuable for everybody today. And I'm saying this as someone who loves running his routines. I love a masterpiece day. I love to get to 9 a.m. and say, hey, check out all the things that I've done. But you know what? I can do all of that. I can run perfect routines. I can have amazing masterpiece days and still not move forward on what's most important. Traction is crucial because that's where success is created. I'd love you to write this thought down. Achievement is inevitable, but success is optional. I think I've got a card for that. Achievement is inevitable. You are inevitably going to achieve things. This week to come, you're going to achieve stuff, no doubt. You could close your eyes, not give it any thought, do it backwards. You're going to achieve plenty this week. Success is optional. It needs to be a choiceful moment. So that's why we want to really focus on traction. Quick exercise here for you. Cast yourself into the future, 1 year. Okay, 1 year today. You're 1 year older. Everyone around you is 1 year older. Many things have happened. And I want you to take a moment to really see everything that you've created in this year that's just gone. See what you've created. And now notice how that success was created. Those work products, those assets, those outputs. See how they were created. They were created by a staunch commitment to your project and to spending quality time and attention on those things. Nobody gets to the end of their week and say, hey, I'm really pleased that I got through so much email this week. We want to create things. And like I said, I launched myself into the future. I love playing this game because I launched myself into the future and I think, okay, just notice what it would take to create things that I want to see in the world, impact I want to have, contributions I want to make. And I love this game because, in retrospect, think of a project you've completed. Think of something you've written, something you've created, something you put out there in the world. In retrospect, you can look at it and think, how much quicker and less stressful could I have achieved that? Now that I'm here and seeing, well, look, all I really needed was this, and a bit of that. And if I'd focused on only those things, I would have done it in a sixth of the time and with half of the stress. Now, hindsight, of course, it's a wonderful thing, but it's useful to think how I might reverse architect the future. I look ahead to the future and then work backwards from that. Imagine myself in the future, then having the power of hindsight to look back on my projects and think, if I just zeroed in on the right things in the right way at the right time, I'd be exactly where I wanted to be. Okay, another quick exercise for us. Have a look at the last 24 hours. Some of you, that's been holiday. Some of you, that's been work. Some of you, that's been your side project or your side hustle. Some of you, maybe that's been, well, who knows what you've been doing in the last 24 hours. Now, what I want you to think here is, what had your attention over these last 24 hours? What has had your attention in the last day or so? Okay, was it on you? Was it not on you? Was it on the people around you? Was it on work? Was it very purposely not on work, focusing on something else? What was your attention not on? Is there a key project out there that, you know what, I look over the last 24 hours and I've not really had my attention on that? And now you've got this sense of where my attention was and where it was not. How are you feeling about that? Feeling good? Feeling a little bit guilty? Feeling a little bit of relief that, hey, okay, good, this is good. I'm focused on the right things. Or maybe thinking I'm a little bit disappointed in myself. And if you were to multiply this last 24 hours by 365, would you have the year that you wanted? Would you achieve the goals that you're looking for? Now, of course, not all days are going to be like this particular day. But I wonder how useful it is just to think, okay, last 24 hours, has this gone the way I want it to be? And if I were to ramp it up, would I get what I wanted? So today we're going to be discussing a few key ideas around this. We're going to be discussing attention management. We're going to be talking about nonlinear time. We're going to be talking about depth, focus, flow, and results. And we'll touch a little bit on distraction management and productivity. But like I said, the focus today will be less on tactics and strategies to manage distraction. And instead, we're going to give our minds an alternative point of focus. And that's going to be our projects. So let's start by framing today's coaching in terms of where you're currently at. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to ask everyone to turn off their cameras for a moment. Okay, I'll do the same. So if your camera's on, just turn your camera off for a moment. Okay, and we're going to do a brief visualization exercise. So I'd like you to just take a deep breath. And I want you to visualize yourself on the other side. Okay, I want you to visualize yourself at a point where you're successful. The thing that you're working on, the things that you're working toward. Let's go to the other side and see a moment where we're successful. You've been running your major projects. You've achieved your key goals. You're playing an elevated game. You're beyond today's time management and distraction challenges. And that's not to say you don't have them, but you're crystal clear on your focus and you're making powerful decisions on what needs attention and what you're going to let go of. Just take a moment to live into that reality. Okay, thank you. Come back into the room. You can switch your cameras back on. If you're preferring to be cameraless today, just come back into the room. Okay, now with that clarity of where you're inevitably headed, here's the question I want to give you, and this is a great time to start jotting down a few thoughts. What are you up to in life right now? Now, what are your key projects? And I'd love everybody to jot a few ideas down about what their key projects are. What are you working on? I'm going to do the same. And I'm going to be asking a few of you if you'll care to share. If I come to you today and you don't want to share something, just let me know. It's just nothing to share at the moment. But if you have got something, I'd love to hear from you because it'll help the group. And I'm super interested. So what are you up to in life right now? What are your key projects? Just jot them down. They'll come to mind pretty quickly. Career, mission, personal relationships. What are you focused on right now? Let me give you a few areas where you might like to think around. So what are you up to in life around health, fitness, well-being, balance, those kind of good things? What are you up to in life in terms of career? What are you up to there? What are you working on? What are you interested in? What's the next step for you? What's the next chapter look like? What about wealth, money, finance, but also just abundance in life? Wealth means many other things other than just the finance. What's going on there? Relationships, connecting with people, friends, family, social. What are your projects there? Changes that you want to make, things that you want to see that are a little bit different? And what's your mission like? What's the mission right now? Okay. Can I ask someone to share what they're up to in life right now? I mean, Gay, may I come to you? You're just right there in front of me.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for the list. I was so feeling overwhelmed. I said, maybe my problem is I have too many projects. But as you were going through your list, I was like, oh yes, I have this project, that project. I've been working a lot on health and fitness and really valuing time spent exercising over time spent creating work and creating product. That's a big, as you know, Dan, that's a big thing for me. I'm also working on a book, a course, a diagnostic for the course. So, you know what I mean? So yes, that's why I'm here today and why I canceled my facial to come here.
I remember you said, and I really appreciate it. Let's make sure this is a great investment of your time. I'd love you to have those projects firmly in mind as we work through today. Jane, may I come to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my marriage, which has been through a rocky side, but we're back on track now. My husband's been very ill and he's recovered, or he's recovering, so that's great. So rebuilding that, hence being in Venice, sorting out houses and where we'll live in the future. So we're thinking about a London flat and living in, having a weekend place as well, which would be really amazing. And then to help with all of that, my mind management, and I'm reading The Chimp Paradox, which and I read those three, and The Chimp Paradox will help with career and my thinking. So yeah, houses, my husband, and my mind management.
Lovely. Thank you so much for sharing. And Jane, you said it there, just like Gay as well. 2 or 3 projects that are working beautifully together, real complement. So I really love that you've got that balance there. Thank you for sharing. And Angela, may I come to you? Angela, nice to see you. What are you up to right now? What are your projects? Just jump off mute for us. There we go.
Yes. Okay, my project is I got also, I was very happy to have your list, because also I was a bit overwhelmed. But it's only one word that I have in mind, and is consolidate. And in every point of your list, like in the career, I want to consolidate my relationship with the company where I work. Also for the fitness, because I'm always running behind things, but I'm never walking, calming in front of things. That's my goal.
Sounds like today is the perfect moment that we're coming together. Real pivotal moment for you. And I love that word, consolidate. And I'm sure that's going to benefit not just me. It's really helped me in this moment, and I'm sure others on the call just thinking, yeah, actually, that's a great idea. I've got all these new things happening, but I also want to consolidate what I already have, what's already going on for me. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. Okay, guys, I want you to take your projects and think a little bit about the future year that we just thought about. And I want you to think, what's your #1 challenge to getting focused on these great key goals and these major projects of yours? Now, what has that glimpse of the future shown you is the real challenge that maybe moved out mountains when you overcame it? I mean, imagine in the future you're on a podcast and we've got a little live audience here, and I brought you into the podcast, and I want to say, hey, listen, you've been so successful, and our audience want to hear all about it. What was the #1 challenge that you had to overcome? Just jot that down. What's your #1 challenge to getting really focused? Is it, I know, minutiae? Is it social media, in email? Is it just sheer workload? If you're going to say, if that's a bit of a gimme, that one. So if you're saying to yourself, yeah, it is sheer workload, I'm not discounting that. But what I invite you to do outside of our session today is just go a little bit deeper on that. Like it's very easy to say, oh, the workload is so heavy. I actually want to look into that a little bit. What specifically? Where is it coming from? Where, because I think when we break it down, we find a lot of opportunities for change there. So what's your number one challenge to getting really focused? And I'd love to maybe hear from someone. So maybe Florence, are you there? Oh, Florence. What would you say is one of your key challenges to getting really focused on your key goals and your major projects? Are you speaking? I can't hear. Where can't I hear you? You are off mute, but maybe it's a microphone thing. Is it okay if I come back to you in a moment, or drop it into the chat roll? Drop it into the chat roll. That'd be great. Gay on chat says streamlining non-work and non-personal goal obligations. Streamlining is a great word. Nadia, may I come to you? I can't see you, and that's fine. But if you're there, yeah, great. Nadia. What's your number one challenge, would you say, to getting focused on key goals and major projects?
My number one challenge, the way I feel now, is congruence, because I've had a period of a lot of creativity, which has been fab and has been materialized into great things. But now it just needs to kind of zoom in on the things that matter. So hence being here today.
And again, thank you for sharing, Nadia, and you know, perfect, because today is about finding that sweet spot between elements where we need to dive into the detail and other times where we really need to come up and out and go a little bit deep on a single piece of work. It's a real gear shift change that we want to have. It's a sort of dichotomy that we can work to. Hilda May says distractions by things that come easily. You know, there was an email that you guys received from Michelle, who's our community manager at TSP, and she said, we find comfort in productivity, the wrong kind of productivity. I thought that was such a beautiful insight. It wasn't mine, that was hers. I'm particularly saying it because I know she watches these. Hello, Michelle. Hope you're feeling better. I'm feeling very well at the moment. Florence, are you able to speak? No? Okay, will you drop it into the chat roll and maybe then we can hear, because I'm sure it was absolute genius. Now, with that challenge, those challenges that you've got in mind, things like congruence, things like distractions, things that you know, really pull me in, or something that's a little bit too easy, I want to make sure that what we talk about today is really going to help us with that. So one more question I want to ask you before we really think about what we want to do with today. What valuable results would you be looking for from today's session? Okay, jot that down. What valuable results? Take heed of the language there. What valuable results are you looking for from today's session? And this might be a good one to put into the chat roll and let me know what would be super useful, a super useful, valuable result. Is it going to be a new approach? Is it going to be shifting the mindset? Is it going to be letting go of things that I've kind of become attached to? Is it going to be something around maybe changing up my view of what is most important to me? Is it going to be letting go of things that I've convinced myself are incredibly important and really are not my focus? So clarity, perspective, too many things happening that need my attention, constantly prioritizing, not enough time, keeping the habit going. That's great. Yeah, sustainability, we want to have that. That's going to be super useful for us. Let's get Usha in, she's another person joining. Letting go, says Hilda May with an exclamation point. One of my favorite things to do, let go. You know, whenever I've got so much on, I just like, okay, what am I going to drop? What do I want to stop doing here? Okay, great stuff. Welcome, Usha. I can't see you, there's too many people. Hi, Usha, lovely to see you, welcome. Okay, so let's get into some work today. Now, the agenda for our day today is going to be 4 big ideas that we're going to share. I'm then going to walk you through a model that will get us some clarity on our projects and how to move those things forward. We're going to figure out how to run our week, and then we'll finish with a few tactics. And what I'd love you to take away today is some new perspective on time and attention. I would love you to have a little bit of self-coaching skill come in. You know, everybody's, 2 or 3 people have already said today, it was so useful to get a couple of prompts. Well, you can use that anytime you like. You can say, okay, where am I with health, wealth, career, mission, relationships, adventure, spirituality? Give yourself a few categories and ask yourself some good questions. It's a great skill. Self-coaching is a great skill to take away. So we're going to share, I'd love you also to take away a repeatable model that you can be using. And I want you to take away today some really good ideas and some excitement for next week and the weeks to come. This is where you're going to focus. And my challenge for you today is to be a contrarian. Okay, I want you to see time differently from how everybody else does. Now, whenever I have sessions like this, I often say, oh, I'm going to share a few books and resources, and I always run out of time. So I'm going to share the books and resources right now. And I want to give you 4 ideas. I'm sure many of you will know many of them. The first one is called Getting Things Done by David Allen, probably the best book on time management in the more traditional sense, shall we say. This is all about getting a handle on everything and getting sorted. If you feel like you've got a ton on, just way too many things, and I don't know where to put everything, this is a great book for that, Getting Things Done. Second book I want to suggest is Hyperfocus. I almost always choose a book to have a the pseudo name for our sessions. This was today's one, Hyperfocus. This is about attention management, minimizing distractions. So by Chris Bailey, super useful. And he's a great guy to look for on podcasts because you can hear him chat about it. He also talks about, alongside Hyperfocus, scatter focus. So for those of you in something creative, if you're writing your book, if you're working on the next course you're going to deliver, he talks about how to get into some scatter focus to let your mind run free and let the inspiration come through. Third book, Deep Work by the brilliant Cal Newport. He is a great guy on podcasts to listen to. This is all about going deep on brain heavy projects. Now, I know some of you here have definitely got those kind of brain heavy things going on, like you're creating a course, you're starting a business, you're writing a book. But for those of you who are maybe in a more corporate world, there are going to be times where this is going to be useful. I'm coming up with a strategy for next year. I've got to solve our recruitment problem. I want to kick off a whole new initiative that's going to be a bit of a side hustle for the company. It's going to be a bit of social outreach, maybe something really different. So that's a time where I want to get out of the hustle bustle and go deep on something. So this is great for that. And then the final one by my man, Steve Chandler, Time Warrior. This is about going non-linear. So as we talk through our sessions today, and I mentioned the idea of non-linear time management, if that's something that piques interest, this is a great book. He's got so many fantastic reviews. This is a bestseller, but there's loads of people who got very upset with this book because they wanted a time management system. They wanted lots of tickler files and how to arrange things and how to work everything out. No, David Allen is your man for that. Steve will tell you, I couldn't do any better than David Allen and getting things done. So this book is about shifting the mindset. Very, very simple. It's either now or not now. And that's time management for Steve Chandler. Okay, I hope those resources will serve you well. If people have questions, let me know. Rebecca was waiting for Steve Chandler to come up. Yeah, I don't think we had a session yet where I've not mentioned him. Maybe I should get him on here. That's a great idea. Somebody write that down. Okay, 4 big ideas that I want to share with you right now. So grab your pen and paper. And these are going to be like high-level principles that can really just help us to think differently about time. And here's the first big idea. The first big idea, productivity is not the goal. Okay, productivity is not the goal. Productivity is the vehicle for achieving the goal. Okay, and I'm mentioning this because I never want to lose sight of this. Have you ever, had a day where you've just you feel like you've executed everything perfectly, but like I said at the start, you've not moved things forward. I know I've done a ton of stuff today, and at some level, I'd say I've been hugely productive, but nothing material has really moved forward. And I mentioned Michelle's, our community manager, her email, you're finding comfort in productivity. And when she wrote that, I thought, that is so true. The way it works is I let her know what's coming. She writes some words around it and she comes up with brand new insights. And I love that, finding comfort in productivity. I do that. And this is really important for particularly type A, go-getter, high-achieving people, because it's all about executing the plan perfectly. And it's like, oh my God, I'm failing at productivity if this isn't exactly right. When I was 12, 13 years old, I used to have this insane schedule. I loved big school, secondary school. And I had this schedule that said 4 a.m., wake up, 4:05, go downstairs, 4:07, have breakfast, 4:13, go and do some exercise, 4:22, clarinet practice. I did actually think twice about 4:22. Do mum and dad really want to hear clarinet practice at that time? That's completely, I'm not making this up. I did that, but I was very quickly saw the error in my ways. Not sustainable. But what I wanted to do is get to school thinking I'd done all of these things. But of course, it never worked, because as soon as you went 1 or 2 minutes over, the whole plan broke. So productivity is not the goal. I also want to notice that productivity and being productive comes with a huge amount of emotional baggage. So just let that go. Okay, emotional baggage. I saw a couple of head tilts. What do you mean emotional baggage? Like, I'm supposed to be productive. I'm supposed to achieve these things. I have expectations of myself and I've not hit those. Now, what we say with expectations is that's not a way to live life. I want to have agreements. Let's say I'm a leader and I've got an expectation of someone. That's never going to work because expectations all over here with me and I've got no co-creation with the other person. So for those of you that are leaders and managers, find you have expectations of people, upgrade it to an agreement. The same is true for yourself. If you have an expectation of yourself, have you actually, as the other part of you said, okay, I'm willing to take that on. So productivity is not the goal. And what I'd love you to think about, reflection point, where do you find comfort in productivity? Where can you be a little bit guilty of that? Just take a moment to notice, where are you finding comfort in productivity? A certain time of day, certain time of the week, certain types of tasks? What's the key learning for you in this big idea number one, productivity is not the goal? I'd love you to drop it into the chat room. What's coming up for you? What's useful? Where are you going to find application for this in the week to come? I mean, I'd love you just to jot it down, put it up on the wall. Productivity is not the goal. Here's a distinction we might make. There's a day I can run that's hugely productive in terms of I get through everything, but I don't work on my major project. And then let's have a parallel universe where I run the same day and I do none of that stuff. And it's all still hanging on. I have loads of email I haven't read, loads of people I haven't responded to, loads of minutiae that's still outstanding, which is going to feel uncomfortable. That's probably why I go do it, because it feels uncomfortable to leave it alone. And I don't look at my email, which also feels uncomfortable because I'm going to miss out or get behind or not hear about something or not feel on top of things. But I've moved my major project forward. Which drama do you want? Because I love that second day, that parallel universe where I've got a load of stuff that's open-ended, little things that really don't matter. And it's uncomfortable for me, but what I love is I've moved my project forward. That was big idea number one. Productivity is not the goal. I hope that'll serve you. Okay, big idea number two. Now I mentioned this bit of vocabulary just a moment ago. Valuable results. I'd love you to jot this down. Valuable results. This is a new bit of vocabulary for you because I want you never again to have the word results without pairing it with another word. And in this case, it's valuable. I'm going to start with valuable. So let's have a little bit of a group exercise. Who have I not spoken to so far? Who can I talk to? Usha, I can't see you, but I hope you're there. Can you just come off mute? Usha, can you come off mute? There we go.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Nice to see you. If you wouldn't mind, just take a moment and think, okay, what are some of the valuable results that you're going to create this coming week?
This coming week, okay. Okay, I think a couple of possibly, it's not big, but big goals at this point in time, I suppose. So one is a process wall walk that I'm preparing for end of March. Definitely want to make, would love to make progress on the preparation side of things, possibly having an architecture for the presentation.
Love that.
That's one. And the second one is, yes, there is a ideation session that I've kind of put my hands up to run in the next couple of weeks. This is around ideation for moving the practice forward, like business analysis and process analysis practice forward. So yes.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And I noticed you just sort of checked in like, hey, they aren't that big. Okay, so I want to let everybody know, and absolutely you, Usha, know that I'm not looking for something really big here. That to me sounds like a very valuable result. Getting ready for this process walkthrough, getting ready for I forgot the second thing that you would.
Ideation.
The ideation sounds that sounds like something that's really going to move things forward in your area. Very valuable. So I love that. And what I'd like you to think about is how's that going to feel at the end of the week when I've got those things really moving forward? How's that going to feel? In fact, there's a question for you. How is that going to feel?
Yeah, I think I would feel momentum. I think if that's I'm not sure if that's a feeling, but definitely would want to build that
Oh, yeah.
momentum and get into it. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And let me ask you, what would need to be true to achieve that valuable result? Maybe some of the prerequisites. What would need to be true to
Yeah,
help you get that valuable result?
I think definitely blocking some time in diary so I can spend that time to work on it.
Yes. Yes, and what I'd love you to do is to pair that great ideas. I'm going to block out some time, and then I'm going to add to that commitment to hold on to it, like to defend that time. So somebody will come in and ask me for that time. Nope, this is what I'm focused on. Now, there's going to be exceptions to that rule, of course, but my first commitment is, no, this is the time I want to use. Thank you so much for sharing. Really valuable results. May I ask, Hilda May, would it be okay to come to you? Hello there. How are you? Come off mute for us. Hilda May, what would be a valuable result that you're looking forward to creating this week?
I think the first thing for me is to defend that focus time. That would be great. Yeah, definitely a great starting point. But I'm focusing on changing into a new position. Next week, I've got key meetings with new people within the business that I've not met before. So I'm excited about that.
Yes. What's the result you want from that meeting that's valuable to you?
Open and honest feedback that I can take forward and shape into the business strategy that I'm pulling together. Brilliant.
Love it. Love it. And you notice that, so that is deeply valuable. Open and honest feedback that then feeds into something. And thank you so much for sharing, Hilda May, and everybody else on today's session. Can you notice where we've got a meeting coming up? Then I think about the result. More to the point, I think about a valuable result. And now think of how differently I'm going to show up when I go to that meeting thinking valuable results. Okay, now this is idea number 2, valuable results. But here's the magic. Okay, so Usha and Hilda May have very kindly shared some of their valuable results. I'm sure the rest of you are all thinking about things that are valuable. Here's the magic. What other results will you create this week? Because not all the results you create this week are going to be valuable. And that's why it's new vocab. That's why we want to pair these things together. Every meeting you go into, you're going to get a result. Might not be the one you want, might be completely not going to move you forward and not helpful. So what I'd love you to do is I'd love you to take a new discipline into next week that's called valuable results. That's what I'm looking for. I mean, what results are you going to create this week? You're going to create email. You're going to go to meetings. You're going to probably partake in a few low return activities. Some of that's inevitable. I'm not on you about it, but it's useful to start creating the distinction between all these results I create and valuable results. Now let's take meetings and conversations as a special case. And Hilda May, it's almost like you saw my script today and my ideas, because it's a perfect example. What meetings have you guys got coming up where it would be so helpful to distinguish between a result and a valuable result? Maybe some of you are working with co-workers. Maybe it's interdepartment. Maybe you're working with an outside stakeholder. Maybe you're talking to a customer or a client. There's a result that I could go for, but what would be the valuable result? And how will that change how you show up? So once again, what's your point of reflection here? How clear are you distinguishing between results and valuable results? You ever sat down and you sort of caught yourself halfway through a task and think, do I actually even need this? Is this worth my time? Is this worth my effort? So what's your key learning right now? Where's this going to be useful? I'd love you to drop it into the chat roll. Okay, big idea number 3. So far we've had productivity is not the goal. Valuable results. Here's big idea number 3. Winning the day, but losing the year. Now, I've touched on this a few times. As we've been talking about today, we can find comfort in near-term productivity. We're wired for that, by the way. Let's say, so we're wired for threat rather than reward, or in preference, because if you wanted, if you were creating a human being, like like it was a robot, and you think, well, I want this thing to survive. Yes, we need to program in that it pays more attention to threat than it does to reward, because it's just too risky to ignore a threat, whereas you can get away with ignoring a reward. So we're tuned to threats. The other thing is that we're tuned to the near term. If I'm walking along and I see a bit of food, and I'm out on the savannas and I see some food, I'm going to grab it because I don't know when my next resource hit is coming. So things that are near, we value more, and we have a real bias to that. I have my brain-based leader, I have a model for overcoming bias, and that's one of them, the nearness element. Like, am I just liking this because it's quite near? So we're largely wired to what's here and now. Plus we've got demands on our time, there's expectations we have of ourselves, of others, and there's some fear there about missing out and leaving things. And we choose to win the day. And just take a moment to think, what are my strategies for that? If I had to teach a course on how to win the day and lose the year, what would that course look like? Well, what would I do? I would focus on email almost exclusively. I would say yes to every incoming request. I would deal with all the minutiae. So I felt like I was really on top of things. I was in the supermarket this morning listening to something. I think it might have been deep work. And the guy was saying, there was this guy who was quoting, who says, look, everybody else is trying to get on top of things. I'm trying to get to the bottom of things. It's like, yeah, great. I want to really understand this at the base level, not just beyond the surface of this. So what are your strategies? Bring that into awareness. How are you, using your calendar to, take up the whole week and I'd squeeze all these things in? What are some of the routine or weekly repeaters that you have on your list that have you winning the day, doing okay at the week level, but over the course of a year, it's not where I want to be? And let's pause for a moment on something very key, which is urgent versus important. I always get this question when I do like maybe a corporate type thing. What do you do, Dan, when urgent and important just look the same? Well, very little is urgent when viewed in the context of what's important. So whenever you get an urgency that comes to you, let's imagine somebody comes to me and says, this is incredibly urgent. In that moment, I kind of have my blinkers on, and all I'm thinking about is this urgent task. What I need to do is take those blinkers off and think, okay, what's important? And now I'm going to feed that urgent thing into it. And then I maybe ask a couple of good questions. Is this a real drop dead deadline, or is this your preference? When you say it's urgent, what do we really mean here? What's going to happen? What's the consequence here? So very little is urgent when it's viewed in the context of what's important. Therefore, I want a strategy that always has me looking at what's important. Useful question here. Back to winning the day, losing the year. We want to turn this around. So here's the question I'd love you to have. You maybe want to jot this down and bring it into your week this week. What level am I choosing to succeed at? Okay, you can use this every morning. What level am I choosing to succeed at? Use it at lunchtime. That's a great idea, if I do say so myself. Sorry, that could be a good idea. Just say. You could say every lunchtime, what level am I choosing to succeed at? And look at your morning and think, yeah, am I choosing to succeed at the top level? Am I playing an elevated game here? Or am I down in the weeds? And a little point of reflection, I'd love you to drop it in the chat roll if you care to. Think of your week, maybe last week. What percentage of that week were you choosing upper level versus lower level? I'm going to put mine because I'm quite proud of it. I would say mine is probably, this particular week, probably 80%, which is mad. Now I've got a little advantage. My advantage is on the end of my week, Saturday, I had a session on Hyperfocus. So I've been using the model that we've been talking about, and it works. 40%, Hilda May, thank you. That's good. Maria, 20%. Week was a disaster. What's perfect about that, Maria, is I know exactly how not to do it from this moment, and just change it up. That reverse strategy will give me a beautiful route for next time. Okay, what's missing to make an alternative choice here? If you find that you're in the sort of 20, 40, 60, 80, whatever it is, what's missing to turn that percentage to whatever level you want it? Rebecca, thank you, 70%, brilliant. Maybe 70% is exactly what you want, or mine's 80%, maybe that's exactly what I wanted. Maybe it's lower, maybe it's higher. What are you missing? Maybe it's a decision. Maybe it's a commitment. Maybe it's a list that's just way too long and needs cutting. And here's a point of reflection I would love you to take into our model, which we'll be sharing in a minute. Are you willing to hyperfocus? Are you willing to do that? I should have asked this at the start. Are you willing to hyperfocus? Question mark, exclamation mark. When I'm in sessions with private clients, they'll say, listen, all these things, I don't want this. And I say, are you willing to make a change? And they'll say, well, of course I am. Why else would I be here? It's not a stupid question. It's, you know, am I willing to do this? Because I know what I'm saying, but if I go inside, am I willing to do this? And then you can really get to yourself with some commitment here. Okay, so once again, what's your key learning here? What's useful about winning the day and losing the year? Having that thought in mind, having this great question, what level am I choosing to succeed at? Where's that going to be useful for you this week? Might be something you'd like to share with somebody in your world, a friend, a colleague, someone in the team, your next team meeting. Guys, what level are we choosing to succeed at? The level of our conversation right now has us down in the weeds. Let's elevate. Let's bring it up a level. Okay, big idea number 4. Let's finish the set. Here we go. Don't manage time, shift the mindset. I want to fast forward to, I want to cut through all time management issues ever with this simple idea. Time management is a question of boldness. That's it. Meeting over, session done. You know everything you now need to know. Time management is a question of boldness. And just take a moment to take in the truth of that. You can have any time management system you like, but in the end, there's a boldness to what I'm going to say yes to and what I'm going to say no to. Holding my boundaries, staying on my path. And this is important because if we think time management is a time management problem, we just go looking for time management solutions and don't deal with the foundation. If I see time management is a question of boldness and I'm not managing the time as I would want to, then I know I need to shift my mindset and introduce a little bit of boldness. It's not my time management system that's the problem, it's my level of boldness. You and I, we could take 10 high performers and 10 time management solutions, all basically equivalent, give one to each of them, and you and I could predict exactly who was going to be successful and who wouldn't. And it'd have nothing to do with the time management system we gave them and everything to do with the character of the person, the boldness that they bring, the commitment that they have. So let's not manage time, let's shift the mindset. And what I'd love you to do here is really get the idea of linear versus non-linear time management. Okay, now linear time management. What is linear time management? It is a horizontal view of time where I just future task stack. I get my future and I use it and I stack a load of tasks in it. So let's say it's Monday morning, I look at my week, I fill up the whole week with a bunch of future tasks. I say, I've got no time. There's just no time. Yes, there's all the time in the world that you want, but you've accounted for it. All you've done here is use time to account for all these future tasks, one darn thing after another. Churchill. Future task stacking. We can all be really guilty of that. Filling up my future with these tasks that haven't even happened yet, and I'm going around complaining I've got no time. Now let's contrast that with non-linear time management. Okay, non-linear time management, where linear time management is horizontal, non-linear time management is going vertical. Okay, it's a real commitment to the present moment and saying, listen, right now I've got all the time in the world. What do I want to work on? Have you ever been like insanely busy at work and then you get ill and you're off work for a day? Now you come back a day or two later and there's a couple of things to catch up, but the world didn't stop turning. Things didn't go off the edge of a cliff, but we convince ourselves that all of our time is taken up. So this is where I'm inviting you to become a contrarian and think, okay, I want to go non-linear. I want to go deep on these certain things. And I want a commitment to the present moment. I mentioned Time Warrior, very simple process. It's either now or not now. You've got something here, I can either work on it now or not now. And if it's not now, it either has to be never or it goes into a time capsule somewhere on the calendar. But, you know, even then I would encourage us to think, you know what, I want to let go of that. And that's what our model is going to do. Our model is going to help us to get super focused on just going vertical on something, taking a deep breath and going, okay, what do I want to do with this moment? What do I want to do with the next 30 minutes, the next hour or so? Jane shared a great comment. Sometimes just leaving things be, they kind of sort themselves out. I used to love doing that at work. Two people would get really het up with one another on email. And me and the guy I sat next to, we used to joke about it. Everyone's copied in on it. And so just leave that alone. 2-3 hours, that'll be sorted. And we'd be able to say what the sort out would be. But those people, ping, 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 ping. I mean, what a waste of time. So, quick aside, when and where are you guilty of task stacking? And what would it take to change that up? That's where our model is going to come in. So let's get into that because I want to share that with you today. Quick pit stop, where are we? Achievement is inevitable. Success is optional. Imagine what we could achieve if we could really dial in the hyper focus. I've got 4 key principles that we've shared today. Productivity is not the goal. I want to really just stay anchored to the goal. Productivity is the vehicle. Valuable results as opposed to all the other results that we're creating. Winning the day, no. Winning the year. What level am I choosing to succeed at? And not managing time, but shifting the mindset and really going vertical, really going non-linear. For those of you in TSP Academy, this month's challenge is going non-linear. It's all about that idea of like, okay, what's the thing that's going to move me forward? Okay, that's the thing I'm going to do. What's been your most valuable insight so far today? Love you to drop it into the chat roll. What's the new piece of learning you think, yeah, that's going to be useful. That's going to make a change for me in the days and weeks to come. And what changes are you already committing to? You've probably already had a thought, you know what, I do that and I'm going to just stop that now. Well, here's something I'm going to start. There's my commitment. Expectations versus agreements. Thank you, Gay. And what I loved about expectations versus agreements is turning that for ourselves as well. That's a new thought that I've had more recently. Expectations versus agreements in leadership. I've been talking about that for a little while. But then for myself, yeah, I've got an expectation and not actually made an agreement with myself. Saying no, or rather no, 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 says Maria. Valuable results, thank you. More reflective planning time. Let's get into the model. So I've got a model for you today. It's in the workbook, but you know, feel free to use whatever pen and paper. And I'll just remind you of that question we had at the start. What's your hyper-focus philosophy? Okay, how are you going to use this? It's entirely up to you. You know how you like to run your day, your week, your month, your year. So 3 parts of the model. First part is you're going to get really clear on your key projects that you want to take into the week to come. Okay, so your key projects you're going to carry forward. Second part of the model is you're going to create your accelerator hit list. This isn't a task list, this is a hit list. And each of these elements on the hit list is a mini project that's going to accelerate you. Okay, that'll give you your point of focus. And the third part of the model is we're going to talk about how to run your hyper-focus week and architecting across 7 days. And there's a reason we picked 7 days, by the way. I mean, it's a nice little chunk of time. Days too small, months probably a little bit too big. A week has been shown in a bunch of the quite recent neuroscience studies. I will dig them out and put them in the session notes, where it's just the right horizon to look back when you're reflecting and to look forward when you're thinking about planning. That keeps the motivation high, that keeps the reflection and learning quite relevant. So it's not just a week for its own sake, it's a great segment of time. Okay, and I'm going to keep in mind our list of challenges that people talked about, that you might have in your mind, like here's the key challenge that we can make sure that we can hit the requirements. Okay, so step 1 in our model is your big 3 to 5, okay? So I want you to anchor yourself to what's most important. When you're in the week, in the thick of it, you're going to need something that's going to anchor you back to what's most important. So jot those things down. What are you taking into this week to come? What are your top projects generally? Maybe it's not this week coming. What are your top projects right now? Let's say I'm stepping into a week of work next week. I'm shifting into a new role, or I'm looking to take up the next move up to the next level. We've got a new project starting. So what are your top projects generally? And which of those do you want to progress this week? Now, there's an important element to this. Which of your top projects are you not going to work on this week? Okay, I'd love to let me come to someone. Angela, may I come? Maria first, then Angela. Maria, I can't see you, but if you come up here. Hello, Maria, how are you?
Hi, good, thank you.
What of your key projects are you not going to work on this week?
What am I not going to work on this week? Probably socials.
Mm-hmm.
I think I need some time down, a little bit. Time alone, definitely not that. And I'm not going to work on small items.
Small items, brilliant.
Like the request that comes from last minute because somebody didn't plan, or the request that I was not planning because whatever. All those small items that take a lot of time, it's a no.
And what I love about that is you've made a decision there ahead of time. My kids will always say, "Dad, you just always like rules." Yeah, I do like rules because rules are really brain friendly. I don't have to do any thinking, I don't have any emotional charge. I've already decided, I've done the work. So I love that, Maria. And what I'd love to challenge you to do there is put it up on the board that this week, here's what I'm not working on. Write it on the list, put a line through it. So you've got that reminder all the time. That's like, no, my commitment this week is I'm not doing those things. And that's going to open up your mind and your focus on the things that you want to work on. Thank you very much, Maria. Angela, are you there? Angela, hello?
Yeah, sorry, I just.
That's all right. What are you not going to work on this week?
I know what I need to work on.
Do you know what you need? So what's?
I really need to be very bold, like you said, and yeah, and don't allow to take too much on, because.
What would be an example of something that you might take on that pushes you to too much? Is it going to be an outside request? Is it going to be another team alongside you? Is it a new piece of work? Is it a long-standing commitment?
No, it's just maybe that I know how to. There is many people in the team, and I know where other people are making mistakes, maybe. And instead of stepping out and say, let them do the mistake, I try to intervene, and then it's all on me. And then at the end, I'm overwhelmed by all these things, but no one asked me to do it. It's me that I'm volunteering all the time.
So here's my challenge for you: a week of not doing that.
Yeah.
You can make up for it next week after. And what I'd love everyone to notice in this moment is we get an opportunity to choose, right? This is our life. This is our work. We know what's going to be super valuable. We're not going to be discourteous. We're not going to be unprofessional. And maybe there are some agreements that we need to create with people. Maybe there are some conversations that we need to have to set that up. But I'd love you to have the thought of, here's what I'm going to work on. And here, at least as a plan and an intention, here is what I'm not going to work on this week. Thank you so much for sharing, Angela. Yeah. Thank you also, Maria. This week for me, I've got loads of things I want to create. I'm going to have to choose. Maybe I'm looking at my board to the side here. I can see 2 or 3 things that I really want to work on, and I'm going to just put them to one side. I've got some ideas around. I'm doing a piece on lesser goals. I'm doing a piece on your future self. I'm doing a piece on your big 3. I'm going to have to just put those down. I've got something else I'm working on. I'm putting those down. Decision made. Rebecca, no meeting week for me, says Rebecca in the chat roll. Yes, brilliant. I would love to hear at the end of that week what we create in its place. So this is step one of the model. What do I want to anchor myself in this week to come? I've suggested 3. I would say 3 is an ideal number because it's not so many that you can't focus, but it's not so few that you've only got one thing you can't jump around. But some of you are going to have a week that's chocker, let's say, and there's only really one thing that you can move forward this week. Okay, so respect that. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself a little bit of grace there, because there'll be only so much time and space in the week. And if it's a particularly manic week, let's say you're going live with something, you know, all your attention's going into that, well, maybe that's your project. Maybe some weeks you're going to say, you know what, this week is not going to be a special project week for me because this is where my focus is. So that's step one of the model. Thank you everyone for sharing. Second step is to come up with your mini project accelerators. Okay, now what's an accelerator? There are 2 issues with to-do lists. Either they're huge projects, so they're unactionable. You ever had that? You look at your to-do list and you go, and it says, write the book. Well, I'm not gonna write 50,000 words this afternoon. Yeah, solve the recruitment problem that we've got. That's months of work. It's huge. Or we have the minutiae where all the tasks are merged together at the same level. So we've got really important tasks alongside stuff that's just not even worth my time, but I've got various reasons why I'm going to do it. That's some of the issues we have with to-do lists. Now, an accelerator is a little bit different. It's going to be the sweet spot between a huge project and minutiae task. So the mini project accelerator, my MPA, just invented that 3-letter acronym, is a little cluster of activity, a mini project that's self-contained, will really propel you and your project forward, and it can happen inside a window. Okay, a window of time. Now, some of you will know I've talked before about 30-minute accelerators, and that's what it's in this month's challenge. Come up with 30-minute accelerators, things I can do inside 30 minutes. But actually, I broke that rule myself this week, and I realized that actually my little mini projects could be feasibly any length of time. I chose 30 minutes because it's very common, it's a common thing that somebody will cancel a meeting and suddenly you've got 30 minutes back. And this is the benchmark for you, right? I would love you to think, well, if I had a meeting canceled and I suddenly got 30 minutes back, would I know what to do with it? So you'll know if you've got a great accelerator list if you can answer that question in the positive. If somebody canceled a meeting, you got 30 minutes back, 45, an hour, got an hour back, would you know what to do with it? Or would you go, I'll just go check email? Or you'll say, I'll sort of look around. What was the other thing we had to do? Or you'll think, okay, what could I work on? You'll spend the first 5, 10, 15 minutes of that window thinking, what was the other thing I was working on? So we want to get to a place where we've got this accelerator hit list. Okay. Let's run an example. So, Gay, you up for this? Give us a project that you'd like to take into this week.
I've done a lot of research on this policy that I'm developing, this program I'm developing around systemic compliance practice. I have all these notes.
So you've got a shed load of notes and you've got a course that you're going to create.
Yes.
Sounds
and
brilliant.
I just need to create a 3 to 5 sentence description of this.
What would it take? What would you need at your fingertips to create a 3 to 5 description, like a pitch?
All I need is my notes. I've been thinking about it. I've been letting my subconscious work on it. I just need to do it.
What's blocking you? Can you isolate the thought?
Yes, I can. And if I do some more research, it will be even more brilliant.
Sounds like we're sidestepping the task. What would there might be a fearful thought in there, like what would happen if I created this thing and put it out there? But I'll let you stew on that. Here's what I'd love you to do with the accelerator. Let's think of a couple of examples here. So I've got this huge segment of research. Let's break it down a little bit, but just a little bit. So your 3 to 5 sentences, you've got huge load of research, want to write 3 to 5 sentences. Too big a jump. Give me the 3 major moves between huge amount of research, writing 3 to 5 sentences. I've got a couple of suggestions, but what comes to your mind?
I have a clear outline in my head, so I need to write that outline down.
So there's an accelerator for you. Write the outline.
Yes.
Write the outline. Yeah. Another accelerator that pops into my mind is marshal my research into key themes. So key themes would be the accelerator there. Because all I'm going to do is one thing now. I'm going to sit down with my research and give myself one target, which is I'm going to just work out what the themes are. I might give myself another one, which is key messages. I'm not going to stress myself out with trying to get it down into 3 to 5 sentences. I'm just going to think, what are the key messages that I'd like to get out, and have a bit of a brainstorming session on that. Those are 3 accelerators. They're all independent. Okay, it's not one thing. Those go on your list. When you have a segment of time, you pick the one that you like the most. Simples. What do you feel about? How do you feel about that?
Great, because it's not like I haven't done some portion of all of them. They're just floating around my head. It's like I'm afraid something strange or something bad is going to happen if I just literally write it down, get it out of my head. So this is really helpful. I can tell that voice, this isn't really it. This is just the themes. So don't freak out. Don't freak out.
Yeah, absolutely. You've touched on one of my favorite topics, one of my favorite strategies, which is called priming actions, priming the action. So just as you said, Gay, the brain is saying, whoa, this task is really big. But then we come up with something in between. And we say to the brain, hey, look, brain, don't worry. You're not doing the task. All we do is like, let's say I've got this huge document, a proposal I need to write. I've got all these fearful thoughts about it. I'm just going to open up Word and I'm going to create, save the document blank. I'm going to give it a title and maybe do the contents page. And all the while, my brain's saying, hey, that's cool. We're not doing the big piece of work. We're just doing this little thing here. I love to do this at lunchtime. I prime the task after lunch before I leave. Every time I finish a piece of work, I've been doing this all week, I look at my accelerator list, I pick my next project, I prime it ready to go, and then I go and take a break. When I come back, 0 friction. Gay, thank you for sharing. Jane, may I come to you? What would be a project you'd like to make a little bit of advance on this week?
I've got a challenging construction project which is on the cusp of, it's probably gone wrong, but it's about getting the messaging back into the business right.
Fantastic. So the messaging around a construction project needs a little bit of saving.
Yeah,
something you are adept at. What are your major moves to get that result?
Well, it's around, if you like, priming the chief executive and the finance director to say, this looks like it's priming the messaging. So I can say to them, look, it's coming, it's coming towards us, it's happening, this is how we're going to deal with it. We're going to step through it this way. So it's about saying to them, there's going to be a plan, here's the plan, we're in the plan, we're through the other side, so that over a period of 6 months they can see the progression through. But it needs some careful messaging.
It needs some marshalling, it needs some structure, and a bit like as Gay was saying, I can see and feel the ideas are swimming around, and they're there 100%. You know what you're going to end up saying. It's just I haven't marshaled that. My brain hasn't put that somewhere, and it's like an open loop. So I'm working on it all the time. It's continually distracting me when I'm trying to do other things.
We've got a new non-executive director who's really good and really experienced at this, and I'm thinking actually talking to him about it and getting him on side will be really helpful, because the two of us together stepping through this will then give more confidence to the business. It's complicated, it costs money, there's risk attached to it, but this is where we'll end up.
So I'm hearing at least three. I'm hearing 3 accelerator projects there. One is to collaborate with this chap who's going to be a great ally to have. There is an accelerator, a short accelerator on getting my messaging right. Maybe the accelerator is called key messages, where I sit down for 20 minutes or so and think, okay, what's the message I need to give? I need to say where we're at, reasoning, where we're going, how we're going to do it, timelines. It's going to be those kinds of things. If you just sat with 20 minutes, 30 minutes for that, 100% you would figure, you would get that beautifully worked out. And then the third accelerator was to communicate with the chief exec and the financial director. So 3 accelerator projects that get me from where we currently are, where the project needs some attention, to, okay, we're back on track. And now when I go into the week and I've got those 3 things written down, my mind isn't like, where am I with that? What's going on? I need to think, I mustn't forget to do that. I've got homes for these things. So this is what we mean by our accelerator projects. And here's the benchmark that I love to use with an accelerator project. I want to look at my accelerator and go, I cannot wait to get working on this. That always is the thing that tells me whether I've got the right accelerator or not. And that comes from knowing I've got the time, knowing what I'm going to do in that time, knowing it's going to move me forward, knowing it's going to be something that I'm going to either love doing it or love getting to the end of it and creating the thing. So super, super useful for us to say, here's the big thing, here's the goal. Okay, what are the major moves? And that becomes my accelerator list. Thank you so much for sharing, Jane and Gay. And everybody else, what's your experience of just hearing us talk through that? Or maybe you've been thinking about your own projects, getting something quite big and turning it into some key moves that you're going to do. Because everything can be distilled down to action number 1, the very next thing you're going to do. Everything can be broken down into maybe 3 to 5 mini steps that you're going to go through that's going to move everything forward. And now my brain isn't worrying about it because I've got it on my list and that's what I'm going to work with. So we get clarity on the projects we want to run and the projects we're not going to run. For those things we want to take into the week, we start to build out some accelerators. Here's the third thing that we want to do is we want to run a hyper-focused week. We're completely tooled up now. Now we need to make it come to fruition. So we're armed with our key project focus. We've got our hit list. When we start to look at the week, you've got a number of options, but I would say 2 primary options. You can either reserve the time for these, so you can block out 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour throughout the week. Or what I prefer to do is I simply highlight where I've got, I've got portions of time. Now my schedule is probably maybe a little bit more fluid and a little bit more in my control than some of you guys on the call. But what I love about that, I can probably show you an example. I have a calendar that's paper-based. Here's an example. Can you see these highlights here? I had a nice open day that day. There are some others. What I do is I write in what are the hard architecture of my day. I can't find a better example, but if you imagine, I write in my appointments that can't move. And in your calendar, you'll have those. Here's the meetings that I've got. But then what I love to do is I love to highlight the blank space. It's like the noise, it's like the silence between notes in a piece of music. I want to notice the anti-space. And then I just choose in that moment, think, okay, what do I want to work on? I'm going to look at my list and pick the next thing. And what I find is I have no stress about I have to do this, then this, then this, then this. I get to work on something I really want to work on. I can really capitalize on any windows that come back to me. And I can be really free-flowing throughout the day. Now, what would be required to set up for success here? Do you remember I said one of the benchmarks is like, if you've got 30 minutes back on your calendar, would you be able to use it? Well, one of the things that causes a problem with making use of 30 minutes is I don't know how to get going, what to get going, I haven't got the things I need. So one of the things I love to do, and I spend a good portion of time at the weekend, it's one of my favorite things to do actually, I do it sometimes at the weekend. I mean, actually yesterday it was Friday morning, it was early morning in my journaling session. I was thinking, okay, what do I want to achieve next week? Now what needs to be true to really be successful with that? And the key here is to remove any startup friction. If there is some data that I need to go request that. If there's a stakeholder, I need to speak to them. If there's a certain set of tools or systems that need to be in place, I need to get those ready. So what do you need to do to be successful with this in the week to come? You've got your key projects, you've got a great list of accelerator tasks you're going to work through. What's the next thing that's needed to be successful? And what I'd like you to do, I'd like you to write down these, let's say 4, maybe 5 prompts. Okay, so the first word is agreements. I'd love you to write that word down, agreements. Second word, scheduling. Third word is tools. Fourth prompt is data. And then the 5th is environment. Now, Nadia, may I come to you?
Yes.
Hello. So if you think about your week to come, you've got your projects you want to move forward, you've got your accelerators in mind. Which of those prompts, agreements, scheduling, tools, data, environment, where do you think you're going to need to spend a little bit of time to get set up for success?
This is a very good question for me, because I have decided I mainly work from home, but I've decided I will go into a co-working space. So environment is going to be a big shift this week. But also, I've just joined a startup. As any startup, is completely total chaos, which is what I like, but it is what it is. So I am gathering some core elements of information on my little kind of mini dashboard for myself. So I've been setting this up and I'm trying to get it completed now for 3 weeks, but there's always things coming up in my way. So I will get that completed this week, because it will help me to accelerate in everything else. It will help me find the files, because I work with a primarily German-speaking company and I don't speak German. So if I just have the link to where I need to go, I can just click on the link. It takes me, I don't need to guess my way through a different list of German. So little things like that.
Yeah.
So you see the mess I live in. So all these little things would really accelerate motion forward.
Yeah, lovely, lovely. I love it. Thank you. And I know that's going to help a lot of people on this call. Thinking about things like, okay, I want to get my environment right. There's certain data that I need. There's a tool that's going to be required. There are some agreements that I need to make with people. I've been working on I've been doing a lot of creative stuff this week. It's more and more, the bulk of what I do. And I continually prime the action. I think, what do I need? Well, I need something that's going to zero me in on what's going to solve this problem. And I figured out, I won't go into a lot of detail, but I figured out that what I needed to do, I had all these notes, I had all these notes. And what I needed to do is make sure there was a workbook that would go with it to marshal the thinking. So that was where I got to. Okay, that's what I need. That's my accelerator project, do the workbook. My priming of it is I chose one of my favorite A4 notebooks and I wrote, workbook. And it's ready to go. And it's out of my special zone where I do all my creative work. There's no friction at all. Now, my mind is not thinking at all about the end goal, which is a much bigger thing. It's totally focused on read those notes, turn it into a workbook of like 6 to 8 questions. That's no big deal. I can't wait to do that. Suddenly I'm moving forward. So this is our model. Getting clear on the projects, thinking of the accelerator, so distilling, translating the project into those accelerators, and then running a hyper-focused week where you either block out the time or you work out where your gaps are, and then you just choose something. And what I'd love you to be really strong at this week is to be really good at shutting down everything else so you can focus. Got a little coaching challenge for you here. I've been doing this week. It's a lot of fun. Where possible, I'd like you to go for one window at a time. Let me give you a few examples. When you're online on a browser, because you've got to go onto the company's time management system, and then you think, oh, I want to go and check the news. I want you to close that browser window and open just one window. Let's say you're working on a spreadsheet, and then you need to go over to a document. They're not related. This is why I say where possible. Let's imagine they're not related. There's a part of me that likes to leave every window open and have my screen completely covered. Back in the day when I was I used to work in this company where I had 2, maybe 3 screens. I used to love having everything laid out. Just, hey, look how productive I am. No, look how completely split focus I am. So I've this week been saying, okay, now I'm working on a Word document. When I finished it, I very purposefully close it down. When I check my email, finished, close that down. Here's another example where I've used it. Audible. Now, I'm sure many or probably most all of you have got Audible. I've got maybe, 473 titles in my Audible library. There's a button for downloads, so you download specific ones. I download one book at a time, and I re-listen to all sorts of stuff. If I stop partway through and I think, oh, I want to go and look at, oh, well, that was deep work. Now I want to go to Hyperfocus. I remove deep work. I put Hyperfocus as to download one book. I want to build this habit of being laser focused, like this is what I'm working on, shut down everything else. So Audible, social media, email, various office apps. That's one key principle I'd like you to take into the week. Here's another. I'd like you to build a score. So what do I mean by that? I mean, build an outcome or a set of outcomes over the course of a week. I'm a big sport fan. Six Nations at the moment, which is rugby, test level, it's the highest level. And last week, Scotland were playing against France. Scotland really up and coming, love watching them play. France, best team in the world right now. And they completely blitzed Scotland at the start. And then Scotland really stayed in it and they built a score over time. And they got right back in it at half time by building a score. And it's a very common phrase to hear in any kind of test level, rugby test level, cricket test level sport, top level of sport. You're not going to just do it in one go. You're going to build this score over time. So I'd love you to take that into this week. I'm going to build a score. Monday, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to do everything on Monday, but by Friday, I'm going to really put together something that's going to be incredibly valuable. And then the last thing I want to give you to take into the week is to capture your daily achievements. I actually have a notebook especially for this. So I have my planner. This is my journal. This is my achievements. Now it's a bit, check out my notebooks. The reason I've got this is because I asked for a journal and I got a small one. So I had to go get a journal, big journal, which is what I really wanted. And this became my achievement journal. End of every day, I write down the things that I've done, however small. And the reason this is important is because we can get into a space where productivity and being productive means finishing something. But you guys are working on things that are way bigger than little minutiae tasks. You're writing books, you've started businesses, you're fixing huge projects, you're moving big things forward, you're creating all sorts of great things, too big to finish every single day. And therefore, I'm going to feel like I'm not productive. That's why I go jump on email or do lots of little quick wins because I want to feel like things are moving forward, even though it's low return activity. So I'd love you to capture your daily achievements so that you can really, really enjoy that sense of momentum. We talked about that earlier. I'm not sure it's a feeling. Yes, it is. Yeah. Well, for me, it certainly is. I love that sense of momentum, progress. It's a really key value for me. So that's our model. I wonder how people feel about it. And what feels like the key ingredients here? Maybe just give yourself a moment to think like, okay, what's key about this? Is it the kind of getting focused on, here are the 2 or 3 projects I'm going to take into the week and here's what I'm going to let go of? Is it maybe a little bit more about taking something very big and distilling it into that middle way, that middle sense of an accelerator, an MPA that Hilda made, just said. Yeah, thank you for reminding that. Those little accelerator, mini project accelerators that are going to really move us forward. And you might like to think, what's likely to get in the way? In this high consciousness moment, we can all go, yeah, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to color everything in and write it all out beautifully. And you know, when you go on Amazon and you look for a new journal and they write the day is just so beautifully written in handwriting, this lovely color coordinated highlights. Like my daily journal does not look like that. So what's going to get in the way? In this moment, we can be nice and high consciousness, but come Monday morning, suddenly I'm hit with a flood of things. What's the mitigation you need to put in place to make sure this is there? And one thing you might like to do around that is maybe just give yourself a little bit of time tomorrow, or any time where you've got emotional detachment from the week, to take a breath and think, okay, what's the week I'm going to run? I mean, I can tell you, I am really excited. I was really excited coming into this week that's just gone by using this method, because I just couldn't wait to get things going. And I'm really excited for next week, because I know the things that I've decided to work on, and what's really helped me is deciding what I am not going to work on. I've given myself one project that has 4 parts inside it. That's all I'm doing this week, and I cannot wait to get that done. So anchor to your big picture with your big 3, 4, 5 key goals, key projects you're going to take into this week. Create a hit list of your accelerators. The benchmark there is I'm excited to do this work, and prep for your hyper-focused week. And then run this on a weekly basis. So how it would work in practice is you would have a weekly review that sets you up for the week to come. Here are my 3 projects. Here are my accelerators. You'll then have an end of day activity that says, what's the hard landscape for tomorrow? And therefore, where do I have some slots that I can start to put my accelerators into? And then the third piece is in the moment execution. This is what I'm going to work on. Don't beat yourself up when the mind inevitably wanders. Just gently bring yourself back. And one tip I'd love to give you, I used to have this, a while back, I wrote something called the 1 item to-do list. It's a to-do list with 1 item on it, the thing you're working on right now. So when you settle down for your hyperfocus on, let's say, you're going to come up with the key messaging for your project, or you're going to figure out the key themes from the research that you've been doing, just write that down, write hyperfocus, : and then write down the thing that you're working on. Because then you sort of start to wander, you look back at your page, oh yeah, that's what I was doing. I somehow ended up on Facebook again, but here's what I was actually doing. So want to just, before we finish, give you 1 or 2 quick more tips that might be useful for making this work. First thing is back of an envelope planning. Can't tell you, I just surprised myself with this so many times, how many things can be completely planned out on the back of an envelope. I love to have small pieces of paper, or back of an envelope is great because it's small and you throw it away. It's so quick to get a handle on any complex project. Get a small piece of paper, so you can only work with a small bit, and just take a deep breath and think, okay, how much planning is really required here? I basically need to know who to talk to, what my outcome is, and what the next action is. And suddenly I'm right back on top. So back of an envelope, it's a great little tactic. We've talked about making that separation between priming an activity and executing an activity. Anytime you have a break, at lunchtime or just before lunchtime, at the end of your day, set up the next thing. It's a beautiful thing to, like, put on your computer the thing you're going to work on tomorrow, and then go off and back to the family and your evening and go to sleep, and your mind's like, that's taken care of. Creates emotional detachment from the day. If you've got some kryptonite that you're noticing, if there's a way you notice that you are failing to hyperfocus repeatedly, for example, jumping on email, picking up the phone just because, going on social media, whatever it might be, write down that kryptonite as a reminder and stick it on the wall. So every time you look at it, you go, oh yeah, that's what I do. One of the things I do is I don't hold a boundary. Another thing I do is I'll just do this thing quickly first. Now that I've got that written down, every time I think, oh, I'm just going to quickly do this first, I see it and go, yeah, that's what I do. And I can change it up. So a few little tips there, and I want to give you 2 brain tattoos and then I'll call it a day. So your first brain tattoo to adopt, and this is from Chris Bailey, who's the Hyperfocus guy. Intention must precede attention. Okay, intention must precede attention. You've got to create an intention. This is what I'm going to work on. and then place and hold your attention there. That's the first brain tattoo. We do it not even the other way around. We just, our attention goes where it goes without any intention. So intention before attention. And the second brain tattoo I'd love to leave you with, and this is from David Allen, who's the getting things done guy. Outcome desired, action required. Outcome desired, action required. Every meeting you walk into, everything that looks like this is just way too big, just think, outcome desired, action required. Everything can be distilled down to the final thing you want to get to. Everything can be reduced down to action number one. I said that once in a session. I didn't really notice I'd said it. And then my client, she said back to me, I love that idea of action number one. And she really brought that out for me. It's like, there's always an action number one. It's in my head as like this huge project, but action number one is like, open my notebook. Action number one is like, you know, fire up Word, Microsoft Word. I hope that will serve you. Just to finish off, Gay, may I come to you?
Yes.
If everything we've talked about today were to become a habit for you, what would that look like?
It would enable me to have much more joy about my work.
And what would be the trigger for that habit?
The trigger was my confidence that I'm doing what needs to be done when it needs to be done.
Excellent. And there's a reward there as well, because I'm going to feel really good about doing it.
Yes.
And one thing I didn't mention, so thank you for reminding me today, there is a reward to going deep on things. The brain, there are some neurotransmitters that fire when we go deep on stuff, as opposed to shallow. So really enjoy that sense of going deep. And Angela, may I come to you? Hello?
Yes.
What's the one commitment you want to make to yourself to take some of what we've talked about today into the week to come?
So I always forget to do that end of the day recap, and a great way will be to do the end of the day achievement list.
Yes. So there's my little challenge for you. End of day ritual is your next installation, habit installation you're going to drop in.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Usha, may I come to you?
Yeah.
What's the next action you're going to take to mobilize on some of the things that we've talked about today?
Yeah, I think it's the mini project accelerator. Identifying the key things that I want to work on. Probably 3 is what I have in mind, and probably stick it on the wall. And I've actually blocked out time as well in my diary next week, 30-minute slots, and made it green. So I know, okay, those are the slots where I'll be picking up things and working.
Fantastic, thank you. And a little challenge for you. I love everything you've said there. Little challenge for you. I'd love you to give your team, I know you've got a team around you, I'd love you to give your team a few mini project accelerators to help them move their stuff forward. So here's 3 chunky little mini projects I want you to take away and run with, and see how your team responds to that, rather than something way too big or something just that's the minutiae. See if you can find something in the middle for the team. And Hilda May I come to you? I know you've got lots of interesting projects ahead. Where do you see the most opportunity to use what we talked about today?
One of the things that really resonated for me was the MPA. I think largely because some of the meetings I had this week got cancelled and I didn't know what to do with my time. So I went straight back to emails. Whereas, that totally more focused approach, would add massive value.
Right. Fantastic. Thank you very much. If anyone else has any other questions, please come off mute, just let me know, raise your hand, drop it into the chat roll. I'm just dropping into the chat roll a feedback form. I'd love to get your feedback on today's session. I always like to know what's been useful, what you'd like to see more of, what you'd like to see less of. It'll take 60 seconds maximum, so not even a mini project. It'll just be very quick. So I'd love you to jump over and do that for us now, and we'll feed all of that. It's anonymous, and we'll use all of those comments to make sure we're continually improving. You've got the workbook that we've provided. I mean, that'll just remind you, and it's a fillable thing, so you can just rinse and repeat as much as you want. But of course, you can just translate this into your own notebooks and things. I hope that will be useful for everybody. I'd love to hear people's comments if they, over the next few days and weeks, where you get to over, let's say, the next 3-4 weeks, the next month of using these accelerator projects and this little model that we've got. And I hope that will be useful for everybody. It has been so much fun working with you today, guys. It is like the highlight of my week to get together with you and talk about and geek out on all this fantastic stuff. I hope you all have an amazing rest of weekend and a week to come. I hope you have loads of great productivity. Thank you so much for time and attention today. And I will see you guys again very soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.